assessment districts. And the reason assessment districts are so important to our community is there is a process moving forward to a proposal to site a sewage treatment plant at the golf course. And in order to do that, the county and the community would need to create what is known as an assessment district. And there is no better person to speak on this than Frank Ager. So moving forward and saying that I recognize and realize that Frank is not only is he incredibly adept and familiar with the subject matter, but he's also an award-winning winemaker. And this evening and all day today, he spent 12 to 14 hours picking Chardonnay and just took it up to Healdsburg. So hopefully he has a story to tell maybe about that.
I thought he smelled suspiciously like grapes sitting next to me here.
So without further ado, it gives me an enormous amount of pleasure to introduce Frank Ager.
Thank you, Brian. Greetings from Fairfax. When I first ran for the town council, I got elected in 1966. And I ran on this platform of change, etc. You know, hey, things weren't really going well in Fairfax. And developers were knocking on the doors, and we were quite concerned. And I remember Frank Lawrence was a council member who didn't run for re-election, and he was trying to give me a few hints. He said, little help. He said, you know, Frank, you can't fight City Hall. So that was in 1966, and I've been fighting City Hall ever since 1966. And one person, you can't beat City Hall. So don't think that one person doesn't have the wherewithal to really take on whoever. You could do it. So I was a water guy. I wasn't a sewer guy. I was a water guy. And a vacancy came up on the Ross Valley Sanitary District board. And one of the board members asked me to apply for the vacancy. I went, sewer? I'm not much. Well, I said, okay, I relented. I applied. And lo and behold, I got appointed to it. So all of a sudden, now I'm on the Ross Valley Sanitary District board. So this is the agency where you probably read the papers. The former general manager is in Marin County Jail. Actually, he's going on trial right now for embezzlement, misuse of public funds, money laundering, etc. 9 felony charges. I got on that board, and I thought, gee, this was a smart guy, a well-run board, good board members, and on the surface, everything looked really good. And then all of a sudden, I'm on the board about a month, and they're talking about some kind of a loan. And I go, what do you mean a loan? Well, it's a housing loan. Really? I'll be darned. So they had approved that like right away when I was appointed. It was done before me, before Frank, but anyway. So it turns out there were a lot of irregularities down there, and I kept asking questions. You know, that's what I do. I ask a lot of questions of the general manager. Here's a guy making $200,000 a year. He's supposed to know a lot, so I'm just asking him questions, you know, and not getting many answers. Not getting many answers. So it turns out that not only the general manager of the Ross Valley Sanitary District, but most city managers and town administrators and county administrators, you know, they do count. They can tell where the 3 votes are, and that's how they keep their jobs. You know, a lot of them do great work, but at the same time, the elected officials have to stay on top of those, stay on top of them, because we're spending so much money. I mean, millions and millions of dollars on consultants. It's unbelievable. I would imagine, I've been trying to figure out how much money is spent in Marin County by public agencies just on consultants. That's not on shoveling projects and fixing streets, and just on consultants. I figure about $50 million a year just on consultants.
Easy.
So our managers end up managing the consultants, and the elected officials end up taking whatever the consultant says. They go, oh, well, obviously we have this report, and the consultant says this is what we ought to be doing, and that's kind of what they do. So a sewer district, it has to be a public agency. So if there was going to be a sewer district out here, it'd have to be a public agency. Public agency has, under Prop 218, they have the rights to set up an assessment district. And there's assessment districts all over the state, all kinds of assessment districts. And it's a pretty simple process to set it up. And it's almost impossible to stop an assessment increase. Almost impossible. Because the way Prop 218 works is the agency puts a notice out to all of its ratepayers or taxpayers and explains what's going on, why they need a certain amount of money for the next fiscal year or the next 5 fiscal years. And the proposed tax is on paper. You can see exactly what it's going to be each year. And if people don't object, that assessment is approved. I mean, Prop 218 is a huge loophole for Prop 13. Our little sanitary district, if you live in Larkspur, you're paying over $1,000 a year for your sewer taxes. That's just sewer taxes. The rest of Ross Valley is paying, I think we're about $742 a year now. And it's going to go nowhere but up. Ross Valley has 16,000 hookups. So it's not really a large sanitary district. 16,000 hookups. It represents about 50,000 people. Fairfax, San Anselmo, Ross, Kentfield, Larkspur, Green Bay, that area. And our budget this year is $42 million for 16,000 hookups. One of the issues we constantly have to deal with sewers and treatment plants. Ross Valley is a collection and transport agency, and then Central Wind Sanitation Agency is the treatment agency. They have the sewer treatment plant. So I sit on both boards. The state, through the Regional Water Quality Control Board, pretty much calls the shots on about everything we do. For instance, we had a couple of very bad spills in the Ross Valley, sewer spills. And we were fine. I came on the board, and I think, 17 days later, we spilled a couple million gallons of untreated wastewater into Corte Madera Creek. We ended up getting fined $1.5 million. And we're under what's called a cease and desist order. One of the problems with older sewer systems is if the land moves, if it subsides or if it moves and it breaks the sewer line, the state really doesn't care about what caused the spill. The agency that runs that sewer system, the collection agency, is liable for it. What we constantly have is folks put stuff down the sewer system, flush stuff down the toilet. It's crazy what they put down the toilets. Gets into the lines, causes a blockage in a line. The line blows, we have a spill, 50 gallons, 100 gallons, 500 gallons. We go out and clean it up. We have to report all of those. So it's kind of like you're on an honor system, but our agency reports every spill. And pretty soon the state sends us a little letter that says you've had X amount of spills in the past 3 years, and this is a problem, and you need to fix the system. So what we're looking at in the Ross Valley, when I came on the board, we had about $17 million in debt. So this little sewer agency had $17 million in debt.
When you say little, how big is it?
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
16,000 hookups, Ross Valley.
Let's hold the questions until he's done, please.
It's okay, that's okay. It's, Fairfax, San Anselmo, Ross, Kentfield, Green Bay, Larkspur. The 12 through Ross Valley. And Sleepy Hollow. So What was I talking about there?
You were,
16,000 hookups.
17 million in
Before
debt.
that, I was going in a direction with something, but anyway,
The spills that you're accountable for?
I'm sorry.
The spills that
The
you're
spills.
accountable
The
for?
spills, okay. We've gone out and we pulled gobs of the diapers, of the disposable diapers out, caused the spill, and then we paid the fines. So when you start a sewer system, what you've created a lot of liability for yourself. When I was on a coastal commission, we dealt with areas like up in the Russian River and along the coast, out here in Muir Beach, Inverness. And we were requiring mounding systems, sub-mounding systems, and of course, most of the time, any new septic system required a dual leach field and a changeover valve. Is that standard out here now?
yeah, still is.
If you, okay, yeah. Little Fairfax has, I bet, at least 120 septic tanks in Little Fairfax, incorporated city, a whole bunch of septic tanks. So we've got some issues in Fairfax, but nobody comes after us at all in Fairfax, because we're an incorporated city. We don't do sewers, but I know there's septic tanks that are all over the place in Fairfax, and maybe one day they'll come in and start testing Corte Creek and San Anselmo Creek and Fairfax Creek for some coliform counts. I don't know if they've been doing that out here in the valley, but you almost would have to test 4 times a year, all of the seasons. You just can't test once or twice. You got to test all the seasons, see what's going on. So it seems pretty easy. We'll set up a little sanitary district wherever. Could be here, could be West Bend, wherever, Gurnville, whatever. And we'll vote to approve an assessment. The assessment's going to have to be, if you're going to set up a new system, it's got to be. I've seen something in here that said about $1,000 a year. It's got to be at least $1,000 a year, but you're going to need some capital money, so it means you have to borrow. So I mentioned when I came on the Ross Valley Sanitary District Board I was appointed November 30th of 2010. We were in a hole of $17 million in debt. Today we're $81 million in debt. And if we in fact do everything that the Regional Water Quality Control Board wants us to do, we're going to end up $500 million in debt. And so I've argued that we need to find other ways to deal with sewer issues. You know, we're using 20th century solutions for 21st century water and sewer problems. You just can't come out ahead. The more money you put into it, it's just like it's like a deep dark hole that you keep pouring money into. And it may seem simple. We're going to fix the pipes out here on Sir Francis Drake that run down from Fairfax to San Anselmo. It's only going to cost us $3 million. Tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so much that goes on when you own a sewer system, and the liability. I mean, the county's not going to have any control over here. It's going to be Regional Water Quality Control Board. That's who's going to control whatever kind of system. If you decide you're going to put a system out here in Central Valley, it's going to be a Regional Water Quality Control Board. So that's probably who folks should be speaking to. You know, it's okay to talk to environmental health, but I mean, Regional Water Quality Control Board is going to make the final decisions. Have they been testing San Geronimo Creek? Have they,
They're scheduled. They're right now. They're scheduled to begin the MST, basically for coliform, for human coliform, in 2016. So the state has it budgeted, but the testing has not begun. Right now, the majority of the testing has been done locally. It's been done by a number of different organizations, and we have some of that
Take
data.
samples and send them in.
But exactly,
Yeah.
but it's very loose, and it's not particularly detailed.
Central Sanitation Agency, which treats wastewater for 2/3 of Santa Fe, quarter of Madera, and all the Ross Valley, is a secondary treatment plant. We don't even treat water, it's not a tertiary treatment plant. In 2006, I tried to get the Central Sanitation Agency to raise the treatment level of the water, and then set up a deal with San Quentin, with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, where we could pump our treated wastewater over and flush the 3,000 toilets at San Quentin. And that was in 2006, and people said, you're crazy, you're out of your mind. I said, well, we're dumping 11 million gallons of treated wastewater a day into the bay. Our system, this so-called great system we have, Central, does not take out fluoride, does not take out chloramine, does not take out pharmaceuticals. So we're dumping all that right in the bay. So I made this proposal that we set up a contract agreement with California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And in 2006, they just said, you're crazy, not gonna happen. In 2015, a month ago, we got a letter from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to Central Sanitation Agency saying, oh, by the way, that proposal to send over treated wastewater and flush the toilets of San Quentin seems very reasonable to us, and we'd like to support it. So here we are, 9 years later, they've decided that might be a good thing to do.
What does that mean, Frank? I don't understand. You're talking about San Quentin's
So
waste?
San Quentin is right across over the hill from
Yes.
Central Sanitation Agency.
Yes.
We treat and discharge in San Francisco Bay 11 million gallons a day. It's not tertiary treated, it's just secondary treated. Well, what we're doing right now, and we got a state grant, looking at sending that treated wastewater, we could raise the treatment level, send it over to San Quentin State Prison, and they'd have to do some double plumbing, but they'd flush the 3,000 toilets with treated wastewater, and it would come right back to our system. It would be like a closed system. San Quentin wastewater, it comes into Central Marin Sanitation Agency now. We would treat it and send it back over for certain uses. Water in their boiler, in the boilers, and some outdoor irrigation, and flushing 3,000 toilets and urinals. And all of a sudden the state's interested in doing that. It would be nice if we were tertiary treated. We're not, and I don't know if we can afford to go to tertiary treatment. We're going to take a look at some of these numbers. So what seemed like something pretty simple is not. It's pretty complicated. MMWD and Ross Valley Sanitary District, they're treating wastewater and sending it out to a golf course. And they're going to try it now for Peacock Gap, that golf course. But Los Colinas Valley Sanitary District is tertiary treated. So they've got a good treatment system there. Central Marin does not. Now I don't know if what's proposed out here, if you were going to do a sewer system, would it be tertiary treated?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Do you have any numbers on that? What it's going to cost to do that? It's got to be pretty huge. Huh?
When can we ask questions?
When he's
Okay,
finished.
Okay,
okay.
because
Okay,
you were
let me
allowing
just- let me
questions
see-
that not-
Let me see if there's anything else I'll mention. Well, I read your newsletter, and in your 10 million gallon tank that the number of Fairfax opposed, it's been reincarnated into 2 4 million gallon tanks. One at 5 corners above Fairfax and one over above Ross. 2 4 million gallons. So they're still after that water. They still want to store that water.
If I may,
I'm ready. Let's go to some questions.
actually, there were a number of people who came after you had started.
Okay.
Would you mind covering the issue of, you had mentioned quite a bit about fees and fines for exceedances
Okay,
in the
sure.
initial part. Would you mind fleshing that out a little more?
So, when you run a sewer district, whether it's and Ross Valley is a collection and transport agency. We collect the wastewater, we pump it over to Central Mass Sanitation Agency. They're a treatment agency. They don't collect, although they're now collecting San Quentin, but I mean, that was another fight we had a couple of months ago. But they're a treatment agency. That's what they're set up to do. They're a joint powers authority, treatment agency. They spend an awful lot of money. And what they do is there's 6 of us on a board, and the budget, I think the budget's, they're just posting the final budget figures. I think it's $26 million this year is the budget. The way it works is Central Mass Sanitation Agency approves the budget and then charges us, I changed hats, and I'm in Ross Valley, they charge Ross Valley X amount of dollars, Santa Fe so many dollars, and Port Woodacre so many dollars. And we have to pay it. I mean, we have no choice.
Is it volumetric?
It is. It's based on a combination of flow and strength. It's a combination, but most of it's volumetric. It is, yeah. So Central Marin passes their budget, approves their budget, and sends the other sewer agencies the bill, and they have to pay the bill. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Our little agency, right now, Larkspur's charged over $1,000 a year. The rest of the Ross Valley is, I think it's about $742 a year right now. And that's going to keep going up, about $50 a year for the next 4 years. And we're nowhere close to meeting the requirements of the Regional Water Quality Control. We're under a cease and desist order. It's estimated to be about $180 million more that we have to spend to correct the problems with our sewer system. And so you got to double that. Now we're up to $360 million because your interest doubles it. And we've got $81 million that we're carrying right now in debt. So now we're up to $441 million. That's what we'll be up to. And I'm not going to be around forever to pay that bill, but my kids and my grandkids are going to be paying that sewer bill, and that's just going to keep going up and up and up. So if I were someone who had some options here, I think I'd look to try to correct my septic systems. I've been up the Russian River all my life, and out in West Marin all my life, and they keep saying you have to hook up to a sewer system. You got to hook up to a sewer system, but there's constant spills with these sewer systems. All the time there's a spill. Even the newer systems have spills. So I'm not sure what's worse, running a septic system in the ground and filtering out the wastewater, or having your big sewer treatment plant, your sewer system, a sewer treatment plant, and having massive spills and dumping it all in the bay at one time or all in the creek at one time. Right. It happens over and over again. It's not just Ross Valley. We get the big publicity because they love to pick on us, because our general manager is in jail waiting, is on trial, in Civic Center right now. But want to ask some questions? Let's see.
Well, the last thing that I was hoping you would cover is, are you familiar with any current or alternative technologies that you guys are looking at? Are there, other than the treatment systems that you're using now, are there any other technologies that the board is reviewing, or that
So another one of my proposals is that we set up gray water systems, and we fund homeowners' gray water systems, flat out.
Well, gray water doesn't have anything to do with sewage treatment or sewage. That's different.
Yeah, it does. No.
Gray water is different than sewage.
You're taking it out of your septic system. taken out, it's not going through your septic system.
Right,
Gray water.
but we're talking sewage, what would you suggest for sewage?
For sewers,
Yeah,
He's saying relieving his sewage problems by getting the gray water out.
Absolutely.
so I'm talking about, it's a 21st century solution to a 20th century sewer problem. I mean, we hired these consultants, $1 million here, $1 million here. They tell us you need a bigger and better pipe. Well, and I'm saying, you know what, I think we gotta use less and less water and cut down the amount of water we're using and stop using garbage disposals and reusing our gray water. And we got, at home in Fairfax, we got buckets in all the showers. We got buckets in the kitchen, and our yard gets watered better now than it did before the drought, because we've got buckets of water we can carry out. But I mean, that water it's valuable. It's valuable, and the state's finally realizing it's valuable too. There's all kind of state money right now for gray water reuse systems right now. It's out there. That Prop 1, the governor's Prop 1 budget has a lot of money available for you. If you could somehow tie into something like that, and maybe perhaps, have you talked about gray water systems out here? Diverting everything but your black water?
Many
of us have
people
them.
have gray water. That's how
Okay.
many people in the flat survive
Okay.
their septic
Okay.
systems
Okay.
is with gray water.
Yeah, so the only you put it in your septic system is the black water.
Yeah.
Okay, let's open up to questions.
question and a comment. So when the infrastructure for the sewer system in Ross Valley was installed, there was no CEQA, there was no environmental impact report. It was put in many, many years ago. It's an aging system. And of course you guys are liable. And what I understand is there's a question of leadership and dealing with an ancient system. And so when you get a little rainwater, you have sewage spills. There are sewage systems that operate just fine all over the world when there's a lot of water. So it sounds like you guys have an issue around replacing your infrastructure and your sewage system.
We do.
Right.
We've put 40 million in it in the 5 years I've been on the board.
You just can't.
Drop in the bucket,
Yeah.
Yeah.
drop in the
It's
bucket.
hard because
They
you're
want us to
acting
put
reactive.
another 180 million in it,
Yeah.
okay? So when people say
It's like
the affordability in rent, it's, how can you afford to, people can't afford to rent a house? When a sewer bill's $2,000 a month, that house is gonna go up. I mean, and the homeowner there, if they're on a fixed income, and a lot of people here are on fixed incomes in Marin County. They think we're all rich because you live in Marin, but a lot of people are on fixed incomes. If your tax bill goes up $1,000 a year, it's gonna have an impact.
I wish
So
we
it's
had
not
a
so much
chance-
about, it's not, old systems,
Old systems.
the systems in
yeah.
Rome are old. They're still working.
Yeah,
Some of the systems are, they're 200 years old, they still work.
yeah, they're just made out of different materials.
So, we use terrible material,
Yeah,
terrible material.
yes. But I wish we could have spoken with you before this presentation because the group that is proposing that we do something with our broken septic systems isn't proposing that we all switch over to sewer systems in the San Geronimo Valley. That's not it at all. We have some problems out
I'm
here.
sorry, but
And we're working to solve those problems, and we're working on getting information with the EIR, and what we're hoping is that people out here won't try to suppress information, so we can make our own minds up and make our own choices.
Well, that's what an EIR is about, right?
Exactly.
That's how you're gonna find out what's going on.
It's information,
Yes.
so we can make up our own minds.
So
They-
So
have any-
is the county gonna spend,
Yes, the
I
county's
saw a
already
figure of
given us-
300,000.
that's
You'd
just
be
for the
lucky if you
EIR.
got off $300,000
That's
for
for
the
the
EIR.
EIR, and yes, the county is very much behind us, and so is MMWD.
Question.
Thanks.
I'd like to just read something for a moment, if I may. I appreciate you being here and talking about this. The main point is I'm with this group that's trying to do this sewer business.
Sure.
I've got an interest in that.
Yeah.
We've never proposed a sanitary district.
I'm sorry, we were hoping for questions.
Let's
Related
just-
to-
Some questions to be
Well,
fine. He
I
wants
think
to
this-
make a comment.
This will prompt questions. Eric, if I can finish, please. We've never proposed a sanitary district, and that would be a vast overkill to less than 300 houses. A better example for us is the Marshall system, which has a wastewater disposal zone which falls under the Board of Supervisors oversight and takes advantage of existing county administrative functions. If the planning group wants to look at successful models for managing both community systems and on-site wastewater systems, they should invite representatives from the Stinson Beach Water Agency, which oversees 700 on-site septic systems, and the Bolinas Public Utility District, which oversees a community system of serves 700 homes and includes ponds in the village of Bolinas. These agencies are both successful, share the same values as the San Geronimo Valley regarding development, and have much more in common with us than the Ross Sanitary District, which serves 50,000 people and has had numerous problems, sewer spills, and a cease and desist order.
I'm sorry.
So it's a different, we're doing something different here.
Okay, but
Now,
they are
point.
public agencies, right? Believe Stinson Beach County Water District is a public agency, and BPUD's a public, they are public agencies.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if, does the county control them, or the Regional Water Quality Control Board control them?
Our regional water oversees all of that.
I don't have an answer to that, I'm sorry.
You mentioned Marshall, so
It
in
would be
Marshall,
a great idea to have them come speak at one of these meetings. It would be so great.
so
Good idea.
in Marshall, is there a,
That's phase one. Essentially, Marshall had to do with the fact that they were finding effluent in Tomales Bay.
sure,
It was designated by the state and by the federal government as a concern. It got to the point where they went ahead and they designed 2 phases. Phase 1 has been installed, which covers, I believe, most of the commercial part of Marshall, and most of the residences will be hooked up into part of phase 2. There's no similar aspect to Marshall. It's basically a leach system, so it's not in any way similar to what they're
they don't collect
proposing
and
out
treat
here.
wastewater?
No, it's,
Marshall?
no, it's disposed of in the ground just like you would in a normal leach system. So there's no
Yeah,
similarity.
I don't know what Marshall does.
Bolinas,
Gene had a question.
yeah, Gene.
I was interested in, your presentation was talking about sewer systems and about assessments. And I was interested in a part that you were talking in relation to the assessment district, that it's hard to stop an increase. And some people have been led to believe that assessments will be a certain amount and that other people will pay for them. And there's not clarity on some of that. And my question is, in your experience, how do people react when suddenly the assessment goes up? Are there key things that they're concerned about? How does that work? Because I think that's essential for people to understand really what they're getting into, if it's forever, who's going to pay for it, is it going to go up? So in your experience, I think this is a very key thing that people have, one or two have asked me about. I don't know the answer, but I'm wondering what your experience has shown.
So when I was first on the board, there was a proposal for a large increase for Ross Valley Sanitary District. And a number of people were opposed to it. And one of the landowners down there mailed out cards twice to everyone, to every voter, you know, and it was a fill out the card and sign it to vote no on this tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge public outcry about this tax increase.
What was it for? The assessment increase?
We were, it
Excuse
was
me
an
for
assessment
interrupting.
increase, right,
It
the
was-
assessment was
okay,
gonna
I
go, we went from like, when I first came on, I think we were like 360 up to about 600. And people were, a lot of people were really upset with that. And so they tried to stop the assessment by putting out these mailers and giving people all the information. All they had to do was fill in the blanks and put their name on it and send it in. With all of that work that was done by opponents of the assessment, about a third of the people actually filled the card out and sent it in. It takes 50% plus 1 vote to overturn an assessment, so that assessment passed. So there's not very many that have not passed. The one that didn't pass was a strange one. The Marin Sonoma Mosquito Vector Control District tax that was on the ballot earlier this spring. that was gonna help fund the Marin County, MSERA, Marin County retirement system. That one actually failed. It failed just by a little bit, and that was with no organized opposition. It actually failed. It's one of the few assessments in California that failed this year, because they never fail. It's almost impossible to defeat. And that one was so convoluted that people finally went, this is crazy, what am I doing? What's going on here? I mean, with no opposition, it was defeated. The one for Ross Valley a few years back, with huge opposition, was not defeated.
Well, with a follow-up then, with that information, that's very helpful. Then could you say, or estimate, if people say assessment is gonna cost X,
Okay.
over the next 10 or 15 years, could you estimate what percentage increase there is that you don't expect? Or you can-
It has to be laid out. If someone's gonna set up an assessment district, they've gotta tell the residents out here each year how much it's gonna be. They just can't, you can't guess. You have to set a number. And that number, you have to hire a consultant to determine your future costs.
And they only increase.
It's a Prop 218 assessment, so it's gotta be, there's gotta be a rationale as to why you need X amount of dollars for so many years. You just can't pick a number out. It's gotta correlate to exactly what has to go on the ground or what you have to do to treat whatever. Right here.
When LaQuesta did the survey on it some years ago, they did this, and they came up with $1,200 a month, $1,200 a year.
Okay.
Maintenance for the system, and another $1,200 a year for a 20-year long-term loan. So about $2,400 a year for the people that want it. Only the people that want it, that's what they'd be signing up for. Everything else is gonna go up, but that's where we're starting from.
Okay. So if they put a number of 1,200, that's the cap. They can't go over it
Yeah.
without going back to the people for additional money. They have to do a new assessment process.
Well, those are the numbers we're working with now.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Also, you were voting this to try to repair a very damaged system. We're talking about building a new system here.
Got a question?
Let me answer this question. I looked at all the videos, and you'd see a half-mile section, bad pipe, and then good pipe, and bad pipe. So what we're doing now is, the state wanted us to replace the whole pipe. So today, we're using it, we do a pipe, like a pipe assessment. We videotape everything. And so, we're only fixing what's bad. It's not all that totally bad, but it's still gonna be $180 million.
Wow.
It's not all totally bad, but it's $180 million.
Yeah.
And I think one of the problems, and no one wants to pay attention to what I'm saying down there, in the winter, when the storms hit, we generally have 4 to 5 million gallons a day of wastewater from Ross Valley. We're gonna have 50 million gallons a day. There's gotta be, we have to have a pipe someplace running through the creek that's broken, and the creeks run, there's no way we can go from 5 million to 50 million gallons a day without something major in the system that somebody missed.
Because of the rain.
Because of the rain. I mean, how does the rain getting in there?
Right.
I figured there's gotta be some creek crossing, just,
Well, that's what happens to septic systems too, when you've got lots of rain.
you know.
So-
Ken?
Oh, I was just gonna make a comment followed by a question. I don't think there's any doubt that if this system is built, it's gonna be brand new. It's gonna be engineered to modern standards. And it's gonna work, I hope it's gonna work fine, and it probably will work fine for 10 or 15 years, but things wear out. So based on your experience, can you throw some kind of figure when you have this brand new system, 10 years, 15 years, you have to start replacing this, replacing that, update
And
technology.
so
I mean,
add
if
that
the
to
regional,
pumps.
if the
Pumps
regional
and
water
mechanics.
quality control board is watching all the whole time, are there times where you're required to upgrade because of new technologies that may come along that are superior to what you've got, even if it's only 15 years old?
There's there's some good technology out there that monitors this stuff, and electronically, and we can see what's going on, where the pipes are full, where they're half full, etc. I mean, you can get a pretty good idea of somehow where the water's getting in some of the areas. But what we have to do is we have to have a capital program, and we've started this capital program now. So you put give a lifespan to whatever your sewer treatment plant or to the pipe. Maybe it's good for 50 years, so you figure out the value of that pipe, and if you're going to replace it in 50 years, you're going to have to put so much per year into a fund to eventually replace it.
But couldn't laws change in a similar way around septic tanks though in 10, 15 years where, you know, people that have them now could end up, you know, who knows what the future holds for septic.
Does the county require you to pump every 2 years or something?
There's actually no current requirement. There's no current inspection protocols either. They recommend that every 36 months you pump your tanks. I know most of my neighbors, in the entire time they've owned their property, have not had their tanks. So
They better do it before this winter.
Yeah.
We're gonna have stuff flowing down the street.
So do you have insurance when you get a fine from the board?
No.
So this is
No,
part of a line item budget that you have to.
They're finding a public agent. They're finding the taxpayers what they're doing.
and this is the
understand.
state.
The state's
levying
finding,
the
yeah,
fine.
finding.
So you have to then be working on a negative assumption as you're developing your budget of what our future fines are going to be based on past fines that we've had.
So we were averaging, I'm trying to think of the numbers, the spills were like, boy, we were under 100 a year, but a lot of spills. We're down to about 10 spills a year. With just maintenance. And now we put 40 million bucks in 5 years, fixing some of the bad spots, and we got a lot more to go. But,
Can
owning
you
a sewer
appeal
treatment
the
plant and a
fines?
sewer collection system is like a black hole, I'm telling you.
I understand, but can you appeal? I mean, if that puts you to the point where you're going to become insolvent, I mean, what's the point of
Yeah.
the regional boards fining only to make your situation worse where that money could be used for making the improvement? I mean, is that
So,
logic
we talked about that a couple of years ago,
to the board,
the general manager and the board.
to the regional?
First, the general manager talked to the board and said, you better look at an option, a bankruptcy, and let the state take you over. We actually looked at that option.
Does the state do that? Do they perform that?
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know if they've ever taken anyone over.
So there's no precedent that you're aware of?
Not that we were aware of. But I mean, we were up against it. We didn't have the money to fix the system. They wanted it fixed now. And so the general manager was giving us the options, and that was one of the options. Throw in the towel and go bankrupt, give it to the state. I mean, we didn't do that, but I mean, it was discussed. It was discussed.
Good question.
It was,
Well, I want to make a comment first. The good news is on this possible project, you know, until there's an ER, we won't know what's the best solution. But if this line to the golf course were to happen, the liability is assumed by the county in this case.
really?
Yeah. So that's
I've
yeah,
never heard
that's
of
already,
that.
yeah. So that's the good news.
How could they do that?
Ken?
I would like to comment on that
You can
statement.
check into it.
In the last frequently asked questions document that came out by supporters of the group, it says the county would bear responsibility and liability for the system, as with Marshall and San Quentin, but all costs are paid by property owners hooking up to the system. So the EPA wouldn't sue property owners directly, but the property owner would be responsible for the cost of the suit.
For fees and fines.
It just says all
associated with
costs of the
spills,
system, all costs are paid by the property owners.
cost for installing the system and
No.
maintaining it, not
The
all-
county will bear responsibility and liability for the system, as with the Marshall and San Quentin systems, but all costs are paid by owners hooking up to the system. So to me, that says liability costs are assumed by the property owners.
So for a while, there's San Quentin Village out there.
Mhm.
The county has responsibility, when you say San Quentin, for San Quentin Village, right?
Mhm. San Quentin Systems, it says.
Yeah,
Now,
not
this
the
is
prison,
a document
prison.
that's from the
Okay,
people
yeah,
supporting the
it's-
project.
It's, I think there's 42 homes out there,
Mhm.
San Quentin Village. And for a while, for 30 years, we, Ross Valley, provided the sewer collection for San Quentin Village. And then when Ross Valley got into a big hassle with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and the County of Marin took it away from us and gave it to Central and Sanitation Agency. So there's a lot of politics with sewer. You may not think there's politics in the sewer business. Let me tell you, politics in the sewer business. Yes. Yes,
Well, I
that's
just have a
question.
well, I guess my question is more of a statement. Isn't it fair to assume that anything that deals with the government needs to be much more complicated and much more involved than anybody in here actually thinks, and that nothing actually works out the way the government says it's going to work out, and that there's always hidden costs and things are always going to cost overrun?
Well, you know, so I'm part of government, and I like to think that we know what we're doing, right, and we do it right. But yeah, we do have cost overruns. I mean, we've got about a $3.2 million job that Major Gelati's doing down in Kentfield, and so we hired a consultant to make sure there were no cost overruns. Right now, we're over about $300,000, pushing $400,000 overruns, cost overruns. It's inevitable. It happens. It's like it's out of your hands. It's crazy. You know, you have a contract for X amount of dollars, and you think that's it. You're going to fix the pipe. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. You put the project out to bid. The bidder bids, and then 4 months later they come back and say, "You didn't tell us about this little problem over here. That's going to cost you $100,000 to fix. Over here it's $50,000. Here it's $20,000. The cost, it just everything we do, we have cost overruns on every project we're running. We just issued a $5.2 million bid to Major Gelati, another one to Major Gelati. And they're just starting that project now. You'll see something along Sir Francis Drake by Marin Catholic, and I said to the consultant that we hired, now, are you really going to control this project? You're going to control the cost overrun? We're going to do our best to control the cost overruns. I figure there's going to be at least $300,000 to $400,000, maybe $500,000 in that $5 million project in cost overruns. We have to pay it. I mean, there's just no way around it. We can't say, you know, this was your bid and we're not paying you anymore, because they come in, they document everything, they explain what they ran into. They ran into rocks in the ground that we didn't tell them about, or some other pipe or someone else's pipe in the ground that we didn't know was there, and they run into it and break it, and we gotta pay to fix that pipe and fix our pipe, and it's, when you're working underground in sewers, it's really a mess. It seems to be simple. It may be simpler out here because you don't have a lot of water lines running around and a lot of underground utilities, but over the hill, my gosh, there's so much stuff in the street. So when we put a project out to bid, you know, the engineers have designed it, and we're supposed to know where everything is so the bidder can make an informed bid. Invariably, something goes wrong, and it's going to cost you more money. That's the way it is.
Quick question.
Yes.
You had mentioned the difficulty that you're seeing now with a number of things that are being flushed. My understanding is San Francisco County is faced with a very severe, extreme increase in budgetary costs for this disposal of hand sanitizing wipes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that has tripled their overall garbage that is now being pulled out of the treatment system. Could you comment a little bit about that and what it does to the mechanical aspects of?
So we've got, I've been to that sewer treatment plant a couple of times, and if anyone would like to go down there, you can get a tour to the sewer treatment plant, really. You get on the list.
Which one?
Take a Central Marin Sanitation Agency. Yeah, you know, we treat the wastewater for 2/3 of Santa Fe, all of the Ross Valley, and part of Madeira, and San Quentin State Prison, and Point San, and San Quentin Village. I wanted to put out some kind of a newsletter, or to do something to tell our residents not to put this stuff down the toilet. Because it costs us money. These so-called wipes, they say disposable, and they're supposed to be flushable, etc. They're not. I mean, they flush, but they hang up in the system. I think there's somebody's trying to get some legislation to make them take it off their wrapper that says, this is a sewer-friendly disposable wipe. They're not. They're killing us with it.
But if we don't do that now, we wouldn't do it when we had a sewer line. I mean, we treat our...
We really
I don't
put
think you
toilet paper down
you guys
now.
aren't putting it down yourself.
We're not putting toilet paper in our
We use
system.
2-ply toilet paper.
And we don't flush it.
So, yeah, but so once you have a sewer plant and you're renting a house out or a unit out, your tenants are just gonna
Yeah.
put whatever down there. You can't, it's really tough to
Little kid
control.
toys.
It's really tough. Oh, well, let me tell you, absolutely toys. Yes. I mean, it goes with the territory, you know, you think everything's gonna be just great, but wow.
It's hard, that's something that's really hard to control, what
But
people
with
will
septic
flush.
systems too, I mean, they're
Yeah.
bad for septic systems
Yeah.
or sewer systems.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's your septic system. If your child puts a toy down it, you're gonna go, hey Jane, come on, what are you doing there? Putting your doll down the toilet, it doesn't work.
Well, there's a big difference too in terms of mechanical infrastructure. If you're pumping materials and any kind of sanitizing hand wipe, or as you mentioned, diapers gets into that pumping system, it can turn a $10,000 pump into a $0 pump overnight. It's very easy for it to happen, and San Francisco is dealing with that rather substantially.
So, yeah, we're rebuilding some pumps now. We're rebuilding the Kentfield pump station, and, you know, we'll probably have $100,000 or $200,000 in that pump station by the time we're done. You know, they say, well, you didn't properly maintain it before. Well, whoever was on the board before thought they were properly maintaining it. I mean, it's a tough business to be in.
I don't understand how people wouldn't know not to do that though.
Like a diaper down your toilet.
Like who?
Unfortunately, many products actually say that they're flushable, that they're designed to dissolve.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't go fair.
Oh, the disposable diapers are killing us.
Well, can't you sue the companies then for doing that, for saying that it's flushable?
It would be a regulatory thing. The state would have to make a law.
The state was talking about some legislation to make them take it off because they couldn't have it on the packaging, because people think they're flushable, disposable.
It doesn't matter, it don't matter to people who don't flush it. People will flush anything. I've been to jail, we flush sheets.
Oh, same, you're a student, it comes out of the same place.
You're the one.
I mean, it's amazing what the industrial toilets will do. You can suck a whole blanket right down, it's hilarious. Don't care if they flush. How many times have people heard not to flush their pharmaceuticals, but we've got pharmaceuticals going in by tons into our sewer systems. People don't care.
Actually, you briefly touched on
Yeah,
pharmaceuticals.
I mentioned that.
If you
So Centerman Sanitation Agency, that sewer treatment plant, which is pretty much state of the art, except it's not tertiary. We don't take fluoride out, we don't take chloramine out, and we don't take pharmaceuticals out. Those are all washed up a little bit, dumped in the bay. So all the salmon are headed for the Sacramento River. They're swimming through the blood pressure medications
Oh
and
my God, that's
and
horrible.
Viagra, whatever else is being dumped in that, you know, going through people's bodies.
Well, even in a tertiary circumstance, there's certain chemicals that aren't pulled out.
They can't.
Primarily, yeah. It's mainly most tertiary systems are designed to remove biological organisms rather than chemicals, because the chemical removal process is a lot more complex, as you well know.
You almost need, you know, you almost need like a desalination system to get the chemicals out.
Yep, nearly.
So you know, I think if has it got to the point where you're going to do an EIR out here on the sewer system?
$300,000 has been raised for it.
Okay.
We're at the point where we're gonna do a EIR study, doing nothing, fixing on site, a step system, and this taking out to the golf course to create usable water to water the golf course.
Well, someplace I was reading, it was
For
only,
300, yeah, it depends on the project, but 150 to 300 homes.
Basically represents
it's only
between
gonna be
15 and 20%.
15% or?
Yeah.
It represents the areas along the creek, the flats that have the high water tables and have the biggest problems with septic systems due to high water tables.
Would they put ponds on the golf course? And
Yes, it
satellite
would.
Yeah.
ponds? And-
2 to 3 11 million gallon, 18-foot deep burn based ponds
So,
right next to the creek.
what I
That's a
did talk
proposal,
about also
that's why.
is the odor issues we have with our sewer treatment plant there in Santa Fe. When you're driving down 580, heading for the Richmond Santa Fe Bridge, keep your windows open and take a whiff.
Oh yeah, that place.
Sometimes it's like, oh my God, and this is supposed to be, you know, a state-of-the-art sewer treatment plant.
This is an enclosed one.
I was wondering about, in our case, their billing plan, as you just said, it's gonna cover 15% of the community. The rest of the community will stay on their septic tanks. Does that set up a situation where there's gonna be legalities down the line when folks realize that maybe they wanted to be a part of that system, but it's only been built to service the folks that are in it now? But what does the district do when they get pressure to enlarge?
So I'm not sure if is the state gonna go along, regional water quality control board gonna go along with just fixing a small percentage of the septic tanks here in the valley? I don't know.
Right now, they haven't technically weighed in on the project. They really, I guess they don't officially comment until after the EIR is completed. So at this point, we honestly don't know, other than the fact that the Regional Water Quality Control Board has stated that because our creek is now technically impaired, and been designated as impaired by the state, the county this week is actually in the process of having a staff conversation about what they're going to implement and how they're going to start dealing with identifying the more troublesome systems.
I don't know of any water bodies here, creeks or rivers in the north coast that aren't impaired right now. I mean, Russian River, Walker Creek, Walhalla River, Eel River, Corte Madera Creek, San Anselmo Creek, Fairfax Creek, they're all impaired.
What essentially it does for us in particular, because we are on individual septic systems, is it triggers Tier 3, which is a 600-foot setback from the center of any blue line, and that essentially covers the entire San Geronimo Valley, most of the San Geronimo Valley, except for the upper areas in Woodacre that are far enough, more than 600 feet away. And what that does is it means that the state is now responsible for, and the county is responsible for, identifying the source of those contaminants in the creek. So it's according to regional water quality, they're expecting the county to begin on-site inspections whether or not owners approve it or not.
So what does that mean to the people that own a house on the creek which has very little land?
There's an enormous number of technologies. That's a really great question, and part of our series, our speaker series, will be, we've already had one company come and speak, and they're at Vantech. We'll have others in coming speaker series, so definitely keep your eye peeled for that. But that's a great question, and right now designers have a number of tools in their quiver to be able to design systems for whatever specific needs and whatever problems that you have with a specific site. So they're always.
And the EIR will cover it too.
Oh, so you wouldn't have to pay for it.
So what you're going to want to do is to really bone up on Prop 218 and assessment disputes. I mean, that's going to control. That's going to, in the end, it's going to control whatever goes on. This Prop 218
and the new state law, AB 885.
So what if you don't have the money to do what they say?
Unfortunately, as a property owner, if they do determine that your septic system right now, the way the laws are set up, if they do determine that your septic system is in a state of failure, they can require that in order for you to continue living, or people to continue living on the premises, that you have to bring the septic system up to code. Now, what the planning group is right now in the process of fighting for is the state to come up with some kind of fund or low or zero interest loan mechanism so that individuals who are having difficulty with that exact scenario where they're faced with having to rebuild their septic system can come up with the monies necessary to do that.
Well,
Okay.
Just another comment to your question or your statement. The current EIR is only going to be studying properties in the San Geronimo, Woodacre Flats, Upper Woodacre Flats area. It won't be looking at any properties anywhere else in the valley.
Yeah, that's where I live.
Okay.
And who's the lead
we have
agency
very
for
little
the
land.
EIR?
Yeah.
Do we know who the lead agency is for the EIR?
Uh,
Lead agency?
The county, along with the local folks that are in favor of the proposal and working towards raising money for the EIR.
It's gotta be a governmental agency.
Yes, it's the
So
county. The county is
is
essentially
the lead
acting
agency.
as is the main lead agency on it. Now, one of the
Would they handle the
elements,
Prop 218 assessments? Would the county be the one that would do that?
most likely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to mention really quick and have you comment on is, and what your thoughts are on, is the fact that there's a couple of twists to the proposal here, where in order to get enough people interested, they created a 500 square foot addition possibility if you join, as well as legalizing a second unit. So the potential is for essentially 150,000 square feet if 300 homeowners or 300 properties were to join, along with an unknown total of second units that would be legalized.
Misinformation.
Misinformation.
So doesn't the county have a second unit ordinance?
Yeah, there's no second unit.
There's no
thing.
second unit.
I don't know where you got that.
Yeah,
It's out of your own documents.
it's
Ken?
misinformation.
The 500 square foot was offered as an incentive to
As a-
join. It's
It
not.
wasn't offered as an incentive, it was a limit that we put on, it
It's
wasn't
a
an
limit,
incentive.
see, right now.
Can I
like,
finish
I'll
my
give you-
statement? Can I finish my
Okay,
statement, please?
okay.
The concept of wanting to help people out, and I won't say incentivize to join, I'll just say there was an offer of potentially of 500 square feet if you join.
Because none of us want big expansion. Now, some people have tiny 900 square foot cottages on quarter-acre lots, and other people have legally or illegally maxed themselves up. So just to be, for people who are under the median size, we don't want to penalize them by not being able to at least expand to, the median. And in Marshall, what they did is they allowed 500 square foot because all the homes are pretty uniform in terms of growth. So the EIR is going to look at the impact of comparing no growth to a possible 500
A
square feet.
point of order here. We're
So-
here
Yeah.
tonight to talk about
Well, we were
the
talking
sewer
about
system,
this.
the
Question.
sewer system and the
Yeah,
assessments.
but you
Well, that's
guys
And
were
you're
talking,
trying to redirect it as you've done before, and you're being
you were
very
talking
successful.
about this.
I would really like to get back to that. if we
By
could.
limiting information and suppressing it, you're not
No,
gonna change
no,
the direction.
Yeah, I've heard you before, Kristen.
No, and I've heard
I've
you
heard you-
before.
Okay,
Okay,
wait a
hey, point of
minute.
order,
Yeah.
quiet,
Guys,
quiet,
You guys are
Leave,
suppressing
please.
information.
Quiet or leave.
goodbye.
Be
I'm
courteous.
not gonna walk out right now. I'm
Be
gonna sit here
courteous.
for a
So
minute.
relax, sit down, sit down.
Yeah,
It's-
take it
it's-
easy.
Well,
everybody
these
was
guys are
sharing.
doing the
Quiet.
same thing.
They're sharing,
They're
Ken.
suppressing information.
Quiet.
Well, goodness.
Listen, look,
Yeah.
you're a
Jeez.
Wonderfully offensive individual, you know that?
Well, so are you.
Okay.
Accusing people of things is just an awful idea. What are you doing? Why are you here?
I'm here because you guys lied.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Kristen, that's enough. Stop.
Can we just kind of just let it all shake off and start over?
Back to
Yeah.
assessments.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not sure how the county's gonna raise the funds to run the system. They're gonna have to set up an assessment district. By law, they're gonna have to do that. That's what they have to do. So, and you're gonna have some say in it. They're gonna say, folks out here, this is the system, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars, and you're gonna get a notice, and if you have no problem with it, you don't do anything. If you oppose it, you sign, you're opposed to it.
I think it will be just the opposite. I think we'll go to the homeowners and do you want this? sign for it. It's not gonna be an automatic thing. Only the people that want it will sign for it.
Right.
That
That's
are
not
in-
the way Prop 218 works.
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying that's the way
Yeah.
my understanding how it would work. And it's only gonna be for certain areas that make sense
If you
geographically.
don't want it, you're not in it.
So if you could you address the fact that there is a possibility that they're gonna be adding 500 square feet and the total amount of square feet? What's your thought on that, and what, especially given that you're,
I thought that didn't relate. I thought you just said that didn't relate to our topic.
I didn't.
I'm so confused. I thought
Yes,
we
you
weren't
are.
talking about that.
Okay. So as far as, what's interesting, you mentioned 1,500 feet out here. When I left the Fairfax Council, the average house size of Fairfax is 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, and maybe
And-
that's
and-
it, it's like 1428 or something.
They've been building a lot of, what they build now is 4,000 or 5,000 square foot houses.
Yeah.
But what's happening is a lot of these homes are being built around Fairfax are out of town limits. So the county's approving them, it's not the Fairfax town approving them. And it shows on the, I'll look in the IJ and say, gee, a house over here sold for 2.4 million, where are they? Oh, that's on Toyon in the unincorporated part of Fairfax. So the county's been approving some large homes in the Fairfax area. It's got a Fairfax zip code, but it's not Fairfax. I remember when I was out before the Board of Supervisors talking about affordable housing, about four months ago. And I was talking about, I said, you know, hey, County of Marin, if you're gonna approve a project and you want affordable housing, require 50% affordable housing. Flat out, 50%. Forget this 10%. I said, you know, Fairfax is one of the more affordable communities in Marin. And then Steve Kinsey said, he went online and he said, the average house in Fairfax is X amount of dollars. Well, I didn't get a chance to comment back on it, but what's happened is the large homes outside of town limits show up with a Fairfax address, and so they're driving the resale values up. Fairfax is pretty much like the Valley, I mean, as far as small homes. There's a lot of 700, 800, 900 square foot cottages in Fairfax. It was an old resort town. Great story. Outer Cascades, Outer Cascade Drive, I think 42 homes. They're all septic tanks. No one's saying a word. County's not going out there. Regional Water Quality Control Board's not going out there and checking that creek, but I know 42 of them run septic tanks. No one's saying a word about them.
so are
They've
they
gotta be leaching
are they
into the
off the
creek.
books, or they're just sort of, it's unknown?
No, well, you know, so what happens is, the institutional memory has gone from Fairfax Town Hall. You know, probably no one there knows there's 42 septic tanks out there on Cascade Drive.
You carried it with
I'm not
you?
gonna tell
I
them.
took it with you.
Frank,
I mean, I have
I
a
think
question.
I'd like to get back to the, regardless of who distracted on that. You earlier said you were comparing like repairing septic systems or building sewer plants, that they both had issues. And I think I heard you say that building sewer plants, you mentioned that black hole of constant costs going up in areas, and it was mentioned that if those costs or whatever the issues are, if the county takes on a liability, still it's the homeowners that have to pay those costs. That seems to be pretty clear from the information we've got that Ken was referring to. Now, those, and I think you call it a black hole, and I can see that those costs keep going up. On the septic system then, you have your repair costs, and those can keep going up. But you also have alternative technology today that could be helpful, it would seem to me, where you are more, the issues are really dealing with that property. The homeowner's in control of the costs, they do have to pay what those are, but they're not, it's not the same problems that I see in a sewer plant that has these huge, the assessment districts keep going up, maybe catastrophic situations come where the county gets involved and then the homeowner has to pay those. It just seems to me that there's big problems there.
The state keeps revising their regs too. But they're asking that more and more contaminants be kept out of the system.
Right, right.
Now
That's
they're
important.
They're talking about PCBs in
Right,
some of
right.
these systems.
Well, that's another issue.
So, you know, you just take on liability. I mean, you can't control the meth house down the street that's gonna dump something in your sewer treatment plant. And I mean,
Did you hear that one?
But
that's what, that stuff happens.
Yeah.
I'm up the river all the time. Let me tell you, it happens up the Russian River a lot. It's like crazy. And everybody in the community's gotta pay for that, whatever has been dumped down there and has to be corrected.
Last question?
because you were saying that they're going to come and they're going to look at everybody's septic, whether or not you agree or don't agree.
Right.
You could be at risk of losing your home.
Yeah.
Like for me, I live in a tiny property on the creek with very little land. So if they come and they decide the rules are different and I need more land, blah 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 blah, no one's going to give me more land.
That's very true. Now, without getting into the technical aspects, there are probably 50 different means of disposing effluent on a property. And you can also, the planning group has acquired easements and paper streets. We've had situations where property owners have acquired from us part of that so that they have a place to put their fields. There's a lot of options, but what the point you raise is absolutely true. There is a very strong concern, and it's something that the planning group is extremely concerned about, because there's a lot of elderly people, there are a lot of people with limited income and limited means that are still property owners. We don't want to see those people lose their homes. So one of the things that we're really almost demanding is that the county begin to explain to our community basically what they're going to be doing, whether they're going to be offering those low interest loans that we're asking them to try and find or provide, whether they're going to actually start telling us whose property are going to be inspected, what kind of advance notice they're going to give homeowners, that kind of thing, and whether or not there'll be unique situations. If you can show that you have limited income, maybe they can give you a waiver, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, who knows. But we really do have to start talking about all of this.
Better close up.
I've got one question.
Yeah.
Frank, based on your experience on the sewer board and also as a resident of Fairfax where they still have homes there with septic tanks, in your personal opinion, which would you prefer, a community sewer system or a septic tank?
So when we bought our little house in Fairfax, it was on a septic tank. My septic tank worked perfectly.
And you are right on the creek, right?
I'm one lot over from the creek.
Okay.
I'm not creek. I'm one lot over.
Okay.
And what happened is the town administrator got mad at me for some reason, and he turned me in to a public agency that had some control over sewer systems, because if you're within 400 feet of a public sewer system, you have to hook into it. You have no choice. There's a law out there that they dragged up on me. And so I had to hook up to their sewer system. Wow. I lost my wonderful septic tank. and I was forced to join the Ross Valley Sanitary District. I mean, I was in a district, but I had to hook up to the sewer. So I'm in the sewer now, you know. Is it any better? Oh, I don't know. I had a nice willow tree out back where the leach sites were that died. A couple apple trees died.
So you lose the access to the water.
It's your water. And water, you know, water's become very valuable. So
Yeah.
what's happened is we Central Marin Sanitation Agency, we work with, and this is my proposal with MMWD, that we work jointly on a water reclamation and reuse program. And we got a state grant. And so everything's been going along great. And so now we're gonna have treated wastewater that we're gonna give to whoever wants to fill tank trucks or whatever. You come down with a tank in the back of your car, or back of your pickup, and you can get wastewater. So we're talking about the value of it. And we're saying, well, we should give it away free. And we were advised last Tuesday night that we don't have any say over that. That MMWD has a total authority over any sewer, over wastewater. That if that water originated in MMWD's jurisdiction, they control that water all the way to the end, and so they're gonna set the so-called rates on whatever happens with that wastewater. Anyway, I just found that out Tuesday night.
Okay, that was the last question. Thank you so much, Frank, for coming out and sharing. The most knowledgeable individual that we had access to on the subject.
Going up on Prop 218 assessments, the county's got to abide by Prop 218. I don't see how they can get around it, really. Anyway, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
We're a little past our time, but we're good.
Thank you.